Yeah.
I just installed this yesterday. It does require the latest version of Snap and the Snapd, and just to make sure that you use the -- classic tag when you're Snap installing the Conjure Up, because otherwise it won't find it, because you have to enable the classic mode. So if you're trying to do this, update to the latest Snapd and use the -- classic flag when you're installing it. Otherwise, it won't find it. So
definitely, we'll have a link to the announcement page in the show notes. But anyone else playing around with it? Come on. All right. The other thing that's kind of cool is that as far as playing with snaps, I was just updating and playing with the snap of the charm command, working on my charm that I'm working on, and so there's more than one thing to play with that on. Conjure Up is one tool. We've got Charm and a bunch of other things coming. I know Juju's working on getting their stuff snapped up where you can actually snap install the Juju client, and that'll make getting upgrades and stuff really nice and smooth. So, alrighty, next up, the Charms.reactive leadership team. I wanted to bring this one up particularly because as we try to get community involvement, I think this is a really important step. See, it's so important. People are calling in. Was that the president? He wanted to check up on how the team work's going. Now, this was a really, really big step, I think, for Corey and the folks that have worked on the reactive bit. Every community starts out with just a couple of folks that care, that hack, that write some code, scratch some issues and things. But if that's going to be really successful long term, you need to kind of get over that hurdle where more than just one or two folks are actually, the bottleneck, the pipeline for moving it forward, for improving. You got to grow the team. And so this was really exciting to me to see there's an actual leadership team. And I think who all from here is on that team? Anyone?
No.
See, so how awesome is that the whole leadership team that they're growing is not the same people that are out here every time chatting with you about it. So I wanted to, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, some important takeaways are there. They're sending some updates to the list, but they're also going to be having some more specific kind of special interest group, so to speak, on it. So folks can participate in that as a Google Hangout probably, or an IRC, or all the above, in addition onto the list. Corey basically had gotten, and there are folks who have made some contributions to it, who have some ideas around it, and some of the gist and some of the pull requests. And so I wanted to start there from a definitely fundamental team to start getting some ideas and guiding Reactive 2.0, but definitely open to the community to give insights and feedback and be a part of that. And you'll see more of that. We just wanted to formally kick that off as folks wonder, how do I submit features? Where do we see it? Where's the future going? And just making that a little more transparent.
And it's a great call for if you're looking for ways to get involved. It's a great way to get involved, right? It's a tool that's vital to the whole charming community. Everyone's using it. It's one of those, small fixes make big impacts, places to really, get in and make a difference. So I want to encourage everyone, if you're interested in playing around with the reactive framework and the code there, to, now's a great time to get involved, help grow the team, join in, and really help make a difference there.
If you enjoy Python, it's a great Python project. It's really interesting how we can be able to build layers and reusability.
Cool. And I want to pull this next one up because to me it was kind of on the same vein. And this was to congratulate Pete, who's here, for gaining his Charmers membership. And so speaking of ways to get involved to help grow the community and stuff, that's an important one. And I think it's important to highlight those folks that go through and become Charmers. So on the one hand, I wanted to kind of congratulate Pete, but I thought it was a good time to have a reminder on kind of what does it mean to be a Charmer, kind of what's the process. And I wanted to kind of take that, remind the folks at home.
Okay. Oh, so I should remind. Sure.
Anyone.
I just did this thing. But basically lots of contributing and participating on mailing lists and writing charms, contributing to charms, and being in a position where not being a charmer is actually preventing you from being as effective as you could be. So I specifically was running into situations where I could wrap things up in the review queue and wasn't able to, and bugged people about it. And so, yeah. So I guess that's it. Just be involved and make yourself known to the people involved in this stuff.
And it's very similar to what you would call a core contributor or a committer on a project. And any of those open source projects as a core committer, things that you want to be able to do is say, did you have, sustained contributions into the project itself? Were you actually reviewing other people's code and giving meaningful contributions for your contributions that need a lot of other further reviews on top of that? And once you've done a few reviews, you've developed a few terms yourself, and you feel confident in the community and you're answering questions and you're doing reviews, and you just need to be able to have that next level, like Pete was saying. They'll say, hey, I've done a lot of reviews. There's not a lot of things that need to be on top of it. I've written terms, I have experience, I made some contributions to the frameworks and to the terms themselves. It's a natural progression in there. But for folks saying, what are the steps? Start writing a charm, hang on the mailing list, make contributions, answer questions, hop into the review queue, start doing reviews. That's the best way to do it.
Cool. It's exciting times. Love seeing the stuff grow and new folks gain the great Charmer's badge.
Kevin, you were going to say something?
No, just that, and I'll make sure Rick puts a link for the show notes here, but we do have a page that talks about a little bit more of this in depth about, the responsibilities of a charmer, sort of the checklist that we go through. I'd say the number one thing that charmers do is, review other people's charms that are looking for promulgation. And we have that procedure sort of documented. I put the link out into the Pound Juju room, but I'm sure Rick will throw it in the show notes as well.
Already there. Cool.
And it's important to differentiate. You don't need to know Golang or any specific language. You can review. You don't have to contribute to the Juju Core project. You can if you'd like, but this is mostly for the charms, basically the operations of the applications that you're trying to operate. So if you're an expert operations person, you can contribute to charming, and you can eventually become a charmer. It'd be great. So you have the expertise. You can codify that in whatever language you want, and make a charm, and or fix one that that doesn't work for your specific use case. So that's the kind of contributions we're talking about. You don't necessarily need to contribute to the Juju Core application.
Cool. Awesome. The next thing I wanted to highlight is more of a Juju Core thing. Reed has been working on updating KVM support in Juju. In particular, removing the UV tool, which is often used for managing KVM on systems, because it's not as cross-platform as we need Juju to be. And so for folks who are diehard into the KVM, then I think it's important to kind of realize that these updates are going on under the hood. And one of the cool things is it starts to enable us to do KVM on platforms like ARM, and really to kind of make this kind of more universal and allow you to have bundles that work in more platforms, software that works on more platforms. It's always a good thing. So if you're interested at all, if you're kind of really diehard into KVM and all that, you might be very interested in this. And so I want to kind of call this out. It's just kind of modernizing the tool chain there. And so I think it's worth highlighting. This one of those, if you don't use it, it's kind of an invisible change. But if you weren't using Juju because it didn't work where you wanted it to, I want to kind of call out that, hey, you should give it another shot. You should play with this. This will be in the 2.2 release coming up towards the end of this cycle. Cool. You guys KVM users? I got to be honest. Like, I'd like to do everything to no end now, and I haven't probably played with KVM in a while. But have you guys big KVM users?
Yeah, I am. I've had a lot of experience with it, and I've been using it a lot for some of the container work that I do. Some of the containers they run better within KVM rather than LXD just to do that. So that's a very big. I'm very interested in that. So awesome! Cool. Thank you. Thanks for announcing that. I didn't even know that was going on.
Yeah, sometimes those engineers, they crank away at stuff under the covers, and good stuff happens when you're not looking.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
So ARM64, is that Raspberry Pis? This is my ignorance in ARM world.
So to me, I think of ARM as the like you can get ARM architecture servers. I'm not up on the Raspberry Pi world on what the chipsets and stuff they're using in those things these days.
Okay.
So I'm going to claim ignorance because I've honestly, I feel like the only geek who has never actually bought a Raspberry Pi. I feel like I need to hang my head in shame and figure out how to correct that. I know there's everyone's gone to different ones and different Beagle Bones, this and that, and I just don't know.
All right.
All right. All right, next up, I was hoping this was supposed to be a bigger deal, and then unfortunately, I just didn't get it done in time here. So, I've been spending some time thinking about, Juju is really great, and it's all about grabbing operational knowledge and pulling it together and giving it to the masses, right? I know how to operate Redis better than anyone else out there. I'm going to put this into a charm, encapsulate it, and then I'm going to get it out there, and everyone can use my expertise and that shared brain trust. But the one thing we don't have that I see as kind of a hole that I would like to help fix is we don't have operational brain share for running Juju itself, right? I mean, so it's great once you have charms, but until you get the charms going, right? When I run Juju Bootstrap, I'm going to get a good controller, right? And that's infrastructure. I'm going to rely on it for my stuff running. And so what I've been trying to do is to chat with folks who I know run Juju in production, chat with engineers, pull my own experience. And it started out as a document where I was going to go through and go, okay, if you're going to run Juju in production, here's this document of stuff you should think about and know. I'm pulling information about like size of controllers. I think you can have Bootstrap constraints. I think it's important if you're going to run controllers for production at scale to be aware that the default instance types you get on various clouds and such may not be the right fit for you. Like, it's a default, right? You want the best thing for most scenarios, but it's not going to be perfect for everyone all the time. The next level of stuff that I started to look at was monitoring. How do we monitor the MongoDB that Juju keeps all that state information in? How do we monitor the API HTTP connections to make sure that they're active? And if that you can't reach that API connection, that you get an alert set off. And that led me actually towards doing just what Juju's meant to do. Rather than documenting, actually starting a charm that at the moment I've got called controller ops, which I deploy as cops because I like that. I like Juju deploy controller ops as cops and put it on each node of each controller that I've got running. So I deploy it to machine 0, 1, 2. And I'm working on building into it Nagios checks, various kind of that operational knowledge into the charm itself, with the idea being that this would then turn into the basis for folks to crowdsource that operational knowledge of Juju itself. So the charm's not as far as long as I wanted. It's still in the early stages. This is my first React charm, so I'm kind of getting my head around the reactive framework stuff and actually putting it to use in Anger, the documentation and stuff. I've got some bugs to file and all that from the last couple of days, so beware. But anyways, I thought this was originally I'd hoped to kind of do a show and tell, but instead what I'll do is I will put a call out for folks to supply me with information. If you run Juju in production and you've got anything you do that you feel like makes it more production ready, from I watched this bit of information with this tool, or I tweaked this configuration, or even just your experience with the constraints you use for your production controllers, I'd love to hear it. So I encourage everyone who has that kind of feedback to shoot an email to the mailing list, to myself personally, ping me an IRC. I'm Rick_H in the Juju channel. But I kind of want to start to kick this off, and then hopefully it'll snowball and kind of grow on its own over time. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's important to think about that. You gotta, it's that good old fashioned who's watching the watcher as well. Someone's got to watch the controllers, right?
How you put them all in, how you mine them. Yeah. We've done the same thing with some of the things we've done in the big data, as far as even some of the logs off of the actual cluster itself.
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to say, could you ingest those through Flume and have all your logs. A couple of the OpenStack folks that have the same thing as saying, hey, there's Juju logs, there's OpenStack OpenStack application logs. What I like to be able to do is just get those all into one place, right? And then make sure I got the right rotation on my logs, and then I can actually mine those. Some folks then take it a step further and said, now that I have the logs, can I actually have a Kibana down